Peter, thanks very much for the welcoming and opening the 22nd Biennial Conference. We're away. I'd now like to welcome Ninny Mills and Ellen Smith to present the first plenary presentation of the morning on holistic development at Gomerungal, also known as Roebuck Plains Station. Ninny Mills is a Yawuru woman from Broome who is strongly connected to her community and country. She has family ties to the Bunaba and Karadjari nations with extended cultural and family connections across the Kimberley region of Western Australia. Ninny is currently the CEO of Nyamba Buruyaro in Broome and is a highly accomplished community leader. Ninny has over 10 years of experience in senior strategic and management roles in Aboriginal organisations and within government agencies at both state and Commonwealth levels. To Ellen. Coming from a scientific background, Ellen learned early in her career the importance of being able to translate research analysis into practical on-ground solutions. This led her into public policy, a space in which Ellen felt she could deliver meaningful change to regional West Australians based on sound scientific reasoning. Ellen's focus has always been on understanding the issues which face our communities and solving these problems through innovative solutions. More recently, Ellen has stepped into the Chief Business Development Officer role at Nyamba Buruyaro, representing the Yawuru people of the Broome area. Please join me in welcoming Ninny and Ellen for the first plenary presentation of the morning.
Mabungoragarin, ngaji gorijan, ngayu nilawal nini, ngayu ngan banaga jandu, ngayu ngamberlan yaru nganburu, ngayu bibi kujara jerenel, nilawal jere daji yir bigit maya, ngayu maja jandu, nyambaburu yaru nyirba. Good morning, hello everyone. As introduced, Matt, thank you. My name is Ninny Mills. I am a Banaga woman. Banaga is my skin and one of 4 Yawuru skin groups within our kinship system. I belong to beautiful Yawuru country, having been born and raised here. However, I also proudly acknowledge my Bunaba and Karadjari connections. I'm the proud mother of 2 sons and also the CEO of Nyamba Buruyaro, which, as Matt stated, is the operating arm of the Yawuru prescribed body corporate representing Yawuru native title holders of Broome. I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to Yawuru elders, past and present, for their ongoing resilience that saw Yawuru secure native title recognition in 2006. I also acknowledge Ani Dai Appleby for a beautiful welcome to country, and I pay my respects to Gaganda, who is a senior lawman of our people and a leader. I also pay respectful recognition to everyone here today, particularly those who've travelled and also my fellow Indigenous countrymen and women in the audience. Today I'm here to showcase Yawuru's holistic development agenda, specifically as it relates to the management and operations of Gomerungal, Roebuck Plains Station. Joining me today is Ellen Smith, NBY's Chief Business Development Officer, who has direct executive oversight of Gomerungal. After my high-level introductory remarks, Ellen will provide an overview of the operational elements of Gomerungal to provide greater insight into our recent successes and our future aspirations. However, to begin, I would like to share some of Yawuru's history. For thousands of years, my Yawuru ancestors have lived along the foreshores of Roebuck Bay, across the Pindan Plains, as far inland as the Edgar Ranges, and along the fringes of the Great Sandy Desert. We are people of both land and sea. The beautiful country that I was born and raised on is filled with breathtaking natural beauty, and as Yawuru people, we continue to celebrate our connection to it as sustained by our ancestors since Bugarigara, since before time began. For Yawuru, Bugarigara is central to our world. It is the power that created us in all a physical and spiritual sense, and it sustains our laws and cultural beliefs and practices to this day. Yaru's vision is to sustain a strong, proud, prosperous Yaru community that is grounded in Bugarigara. Our mission is to strengthen Mabulian for all, always. You heard Ani Dai provide a beautiful description and meaning behind Lian. And to extend on that, in simple translation, our mission is to derive positive well-being for our community. This is ambitious. However, our intent as a community, corporate group, and operating entity is to create platforms and pathways to empowerment and self-determination in recognition that individual empowerment contributes to community empowerment. Unlike mainstream organisations and businesses, our corporation has been developed in line with our cultural foundations and philosophies. This diagram on the screen visually depicts our Yaru cultural framework, which embeds our strategic pillars, being Mabuburu, healthy country, which is managed by our environmental services unit, Jirongan Ngarungunil, strong community, facilitated by our community development arm, Nalingan Manja, true prosperity, which is our economic development agenda, and finally, Murgulaini Nalingan, which is both cultural and corporate governance. All of these pillars and operating units within Nyambaburu Yaru are intrinsically linked and are grounded in our cultural values. We apply a holistic development agenda as it relates to the interconnectedness of these pillars in line with our quadruple bottom line objectives, which is strategically intended to maximise on environmental, economic, cultural and social outcomes to achieve our mission, which is reflected in the outer circle of the diagram. Our values are of particular importance to us. We seek out partnerships and collaboration with parties that have aligned values. Our values are also defined within our Mabulian framework to help crystallise and reinforce what is important to us and how we aim to achieve our objectives by way of our expected corporate, communal and individual behaviours and conduct. Now that I've shared some insight into our cultural framework, vision, mission and values, let me share with you a brief timeline of Yaru's native title journey and other key milestones associated with Gumurunganjal, Roebuck Plains Station. Yaru leaders lodged our native title claim in the National Native Title Tribunal in 1994, less than 2 years after the Mabo judgment and only months following the passing of the Federal Native Title Act. Yet it was more than 20 years later that the state government finally recognised our traditional rights through a comprehensive Indigenous land use agreement. Yaru leaders, led by Uncle Patrick Dodson, negotiated an agreement with the state government in 2010. It was an extraordinary agreement that enabled Yaru to rebuild our society after 130 years of Western colonial domination, which had detrimental impact and seeded a course of intergenerational trauma. Our agreement remains as the platform of our social and economic empowerment. Via this agreement, approximately 530,000 hectares of Yaru land in and around Broome, including significant portion of developable land, was returned to Yaru or earmarked for divestment. The Indigenous Land and Sea Corporation initially purchased Roebuck Plains Station in 1999 for the benefit of Yaru. In 2006, as part of our native title determination, the federal court determined that the whole of Roebuck Plains Station was to hold the unique status of exclusive possession Yaru native title. The Yaru language name, as I've stated previously, and so has Anidai, for the land on which Roebuck Plains Station is located, is Gumurunganjal. In 2016, a Yaru Indigenous Protected Area, IPA, was declared over areas of cultural and ecological significance on the station for Yaru management under an IPA management plan. As one of the few multi-tenure land and sea IPA does commercial recognising the IPA significant developed area in its unit to his industry. Willie Melbourne Matthews, Environmental Unit Manager, lead this here today, and I acknowledge presenting more about in one of the panels. Gumurungan and its associated Roebuck Export Depot were handed back to NBY by way of ownership by the ILSC in 2014. And on the 1st of February 2022, NBY took over operations of Gumrunganjal through our subsidiary, Yaru Holdings Company. Yaru's vision for Gumrunganjal is to deliver excellence in sustainable cattle production and to integrate cultural, environmental, economic and social values to create prosperity for Yaru future generations. Our strategic pillars for the station are consistent with the aspirations and values of our broader strategy that I shared earlier, which is about protection of country through the development and implementation of sophisticated land management practices applying both traditional ecological knowledge and Western science. We aim to develop our people so that they are empowered to operationalise our business and care for our country. And I know that some of you met some of our on-country managers yesterday and had the opportunity to engage with them. For the cattle station, we obviously, with any business, need to ensure commercial viability and sustainability, and we are looking at other economic development opportunities through the identification of divestment options. But also specifically in the case of Gumrunganjal, we aim to apply best practice pastoral, animal welfare and grazing practices. Before I hand the mic to Ellen to talk to you about some of the more detailed operational elements of Gumrunganjal, I share with you some summarised reflection categorised in 3 sections: past, present and future. As it relates to the past, many of my old people worked in the pastoral industry at a point in time where Aboriginal people were discriminated, oppressed and marginalised via the assimilation policies of this country. They shed blood, sweat and tears working for other people in poor conditions, often only receiving rations for their hard labour, and not being able to access and protect country as per our custodianship responsibilities. The resilience of my old people that I spoke of earlier meant that despite these harsh circumstances and the reality of that past time, today, Yaru are the proud owners and operators of one of the best cattle stations in the Kimberley. As it relates to the present, being since the divestment of Gumrunganjal under full Yaru ownership and operations, we have seen amazing outcomes in line with our vision and objectives, despite operating in a high-risk environment and dealing with multiple challenges and unprecedented circumstances requiring agility and innovation to navigate such complexities. We, like many other businesses, have had to deal with COVID, floods, heavy torrential rain, decreases to market conditions, export issues, the threat of lumpy skin and foot and mouth disease, significant infrastructure upgrade requirements, and importantly, building operational foundations from scratch, particularly in engaging key staff. So if I reflect on the rainy, wet season morning, the week prior to divestment in late January 22, and being just under 2 months into my position as CEO, I'm truly proud of how far we've come since that day. We certainly did take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and we have achieved some amazing outcomes since then. Finally, to the future. Gumrunganjal will be a cattle station like no other, achieving operational excellence and sustainable outcomes through the continual application of our holistic development model, contributing to greater impact and outcomes for not only Yaru people, but for the broader economic empowerment and sustainability of our region and for the sustainability of our country. Kalamabu.
Thanks, Nini, and thanks everybody for having us both here today. As Nini mentioned, Nayu Nilawal Ellen Smith. My name's Ellen, and I'm the Chief Business Development Officer at Nyambaburu Yaru. Nini spoke to some of our 4 strategic pillars which underpin the operations of Gumrunganjal, and all the best laid plans don't always come to fruition. So can those who came on our tour yesterday at the field trip raise their hands? I think there was, a significant portion of you, which is awesome. So this is the road that we drove across the marine plains to get to Mimiagaman, which was the site that we got out and had a yarn to the country managers at. So this was January earlier this year, and I think it speaks to I guess, the dynamic environment in which we live and are trying to operate a cattle enterprise. And amazingly, despite these trying conditions, and I acknowledge the people in the Fitzroy Crossing and Fitzroy Valley area who perhaps didn't, come out as well as we did or suffered more significantly, we came out fairly well. And in fact, our stock agent earlier this year told us that we've got the fattest and best looking cattle he's ever seen come off Gumaranganjal, which is really exciting. And then on the flip side, we've got markets that have kind of fallen away. And so we've got an abundance of cattle on our station, probably about 2,000 more head than what we had anticipated or would like to not ordinarily run on the station. And so based on our holistic management model, we're really having to consider, do we prioritise profit or country? And knowing that we have our management grounded in the importance of Yawuru culture, which is derived from that connection to country, we really have to, potentially we take a hit and sell those cattle for a loss in order to ensure that we are preserving the country and making sure that we're leaving that legacy for future generations. So with that in mind, and bearing in mind the challenges of the live export market, which is largely where our cattle are destined for, what I'm going to speak to around our operations is where we're attempting to diversify and move away from that over-reliance on live export, as well as some of the initiatives that we're undertaking on Gumaranganjal around the looking after of country, or buru as it's called in Yawuru language. So our strategic pillars are underpinned by these 4 objectives. The first one is holistic planning maximises the co-benefits of environmental and culturally sensitive country management with pastoral grazing strategies and cattle wellbeing. The second is production and profitability of the cattle enterprise is improved year on year, driving prosperity from a multi-million-dollar turnover. And I think it's worthwhile pointing out here that the Yawuru Holdings Company, which is a subsidiary of Nyambulburu Yawuru, the operating arm, is ultimately the main financial driver for that organisation. And so the profits that are derived from Gumaranganjal will eventually be funneled back into Nyambulburu Yawuru to enable the organisation to deliver amazing projects in youth engagement, employment and training, elders and disability support, delivering language, Yawuru language across thousands of students in Broome. So there's amazing initiatives that Nyambulburu Yawuru is doing, and that's going to be underpinned by the profitability of the station. And so our third objective is that the Yawuru pastoral business has an inclusive, welcoming and safe culture which develops our people and opportunities through training and education pathways. And I really hope that those of you that came out yesterday really felt that in your lian. And the fourth pillar is around new economic and social enterprise opportunities being developed to sustain the Yawuru Holdings Company and Gumaranganjal. So that speaks to what I mentioned earlier with regard to the need to diversify and reduce our current over-reliance on the live export market. So one of the ways in which we're doing that is through irrigated agriculture opportunities, and this was a really unique process that we went through which overlaid cultural, environmental, hydrogeology and soil parameters to identify a Goldilocks zone. We were successful in obtaining a 3 gigalitre water licence and a clearing permit for a 420 hectare area. So what we do with this is continuing to evolve and will form part of that diversification plan. We also deliver really fantastic programs through our Wadamajala Mugalai Rise Up to Work program, where we deliver training and employment in the pastoral industry for young Aboriginal people, both Yawuru and from across the Kimberley. And this year we have had 12 participants, 11 of which graduated, which is amazing results within the training and employment industry for Indigenous children. And all of those went into employment, which is really exciting. I'll talk as well to Mabuburu, which is Healthy Country. It's the program that's delivered by our environmental services team and some of the fantastic work that they're doing to maintain healthy country. So Nyambaburu Yaru is where our environmental services team sits, and they provide services to Gumaranganyal through the overlay of the Indigenous protected areas, which are the cross-hatched zones on the map there. There's some really important locations around the station, including permanent water holes or jillas, as well as backing onto a wetland of environmental significance. So Roebuck Plains or Roebuck Bay itself is a Ramsar listed site. So huge environmental significance, and we feel a responsibility given that our station backs onto that area of environmental significance. So a lot of the work that our country managers do is ensuring that the work that we do on the station doesn't impact the surrounding environments as well as the country itself. Some of the work that our country managers have done is in mapping the groundwater and how it flows, and this was in the development of identifying a site for our agriculture area, and country managers really developed their expertise in this, are continuing to gather and monitor ground levels and how from year and season. Also do site basements across different sites across the station. They assess the tree canopy, the ground, and also importantly undertake a Lian score, which is how they feel when they're in that country and in that area. And so on this particular day, the Lian was low, and that was because we had some cattle that, someone left a gate open and cattle went in there and it was, trampled a little bit. And so this particular gilla, which is of importance, wasn't in the best condition on that particular day. And that's part of our story. We have a station which is bound by two major highways, and so while that's fantastic in terms of logistics, supply chains and access to markets, it's also detrimental in some respects because people enter onto the station willy-nilly and they don't necessarily respect the confines of the cattle enterprise and the country that we're trying to maintain. The team has also been doing sustainable grazing plots and comparing fenced areas alongside unfenced areas, and using satellite and drone footage imagery to test NDVI and get a real understanding of the impacts of cattle and also what happens to country when there's no pressure on it. And in the next stage of their analysis, they'll be looking at, well, what can we introduce to try and stimulate more plant growth, whether that's intensive grazing of cattle or perhaps introducing fire on those areas to see how the grassland responds. The team also does fire management, both in terms of mitigating fire risk to the station as well as endeavours to promote growth and get grassland to really fire off and create really beautiful fodder for the cattle. And some of our achievements operationally over the past 12 months have seen major upgrades to 3 sets of yards, upgrades to 12 watering points, 125 kilometres of fencing renewed or repaired, 100% employment outcomes for our Wadmajala Mugalai participants, implementation of key plans and policies like our Safe Access Policy and Animal Welfare Plan. We've been awarded 2 grants to deliver carbon baseline assessments as well as an ecologically sustainable rangeland management plan. And we're engaging extensively with key industry leaders through the Northern Australian Beef Research Council and RCS Australia and the Minister for Agriculture, and hosting you guys as well at our station. So we're really keen to continue partnership with these communities and partners and key agents. So in the future, we're hoping to continue to diversify our operations, take a holistic management approach, and ultimately be able to sustain this country for future generations in a way that also derives profits, which provides returns back to Nyambaburu Yaru so that we can continue to deliver some of our amazing services to the community and broader industry. I'll wrap it up there because I've run out of time, but thank you all very much.
Thanks very much, Nini and Ellen. I really enjoyed that. Just learning so much about Roebuck Plains and Yumba Buru Yaru over the last few days. It's been really good. We've got a few minutes left now before the close of this first plenary presentation, where there's 2 roving microphones. So if someone would like to ask Nini or Ellen a question, please put your hand up. We'll get the microphone to you, and just please introduce yourself, just with your name would be nice before you ask the question. Thank you. You've got a question up the front here, Cedar.
Thank you. I'm Rob Pearce from Western Queensland. I've been out to Roebuck Plains twice now, yesterday and earlier in the year with the NABRAC tour. And I'm very impressed with how your management and adoption and the training of your young people is very impressive. Are you sending your model to other communities across the country with native title and that taking hold, for them to follow your model in their locations?
So we're actually partnering and in the throes of negotiation with Meat and Livestock Australia to develop a value chain development model, which is underpinned by moving towards a carbon neutral production system. We're undertaking environmental accounting, which will be a world first, incorporating cultural practices as well, through partnership with Australian National University. And so through those particular elements, both of those, are sort of publicly funded, out externally facing products that we're hoping will provide some rigour to the way in which our management style and holistic approach is delivered, and through that will provide that level of extension. I think that your question was aimed around the capacity development element of people, of our young people. So the Wadmajala Murgulai program that we run successfully, we worked on that with KPCA and also the TAFE and DPIRD. And so the broader kind of strategic approach of this state for this region is exploring the development of a pastoral academy. And so we see that there's a real fantastic opportunity to embed our program delivery model into that development. So those conversations are happening, and we also directly engage with some other groups who are wanting to explore how they apply that in their own communities as well. So it's happening.
Hi, it was a very, very inspiring presentation. Thank you. My name's Sandra. I'm here from CSIRO. You just mentioned ANU, and you both mentioned significant science input into your operations. I'm just wondering who else you're partnering with for that science input.
So we're partnering with a number of state government organisations. So Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development will be bringing up their C-lock device to test the methane output of cattle in rangelands country. We're partnering with Department of Water and Environmental Regulation around the water monitoring that's occurring on the station. ANU, Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, which we do joint management with of country. Who else? Notre Dame University, we're undertaking a research framework development with them. Any others? Just looking at Dean, who's nodding his head.
I think you've captured most of them, but Jules and Gugdeen, if there's any others, maybe you can put that information forward at the separate session. Yeah.
Excuse me. We've probably got time for one more question. Thanks, Jennifer.
Greg Brennan from Grazing Innovation Geraldton. I was at the Roebuck Plains tour yesterday, and I felt a very strong Leo. does make me feel emotional, actually. And I just wondered whether, I've noticed working with other pastoralists and land managers, when they start to work with nature, they get really inspired because they can see that nature's on side and it's really motivating for them. Just wondered if you see an opportunity to extend that monitoring technology to the wider pastoral industry, because I think if we're going to really elevate our land management, we've got to touch into that emotional dimension.
100% agree. From a Yawuru perspective, the intrinsic link that we have to our country is one that fuels our aspirations to care for it and fulfil our custodianship responsibilities. We know that all of us in this audience today, we are here for a short time in the grand scheme of things. What's going to be left behind is our country. And so we have an obligation collectively in today's society to manage it and understand, tap into that emotional connection, because that, I think, again, that's what's going to fuel us to do the right things in the right way. We are facing broader climate challenges, and the time is now to work towards, a collective approach in honour of our future generations. So I agree. How that happens, I think that's why all of you amazing people are in this room over the course of the next few days, and we're certainly happy to contribute to those strategies, solutions and discussions. So thank you.
Sorry, Matt, I might just also add that my understanding is through Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development and the Soil Commissioner that there's new regulations that have come in around the monitoring and management of rangelands, particularly as they relate to the pastoral estate. And there is, unfortunately, a limited supply of people with the requisite skills who are given the authority under that Act to be able to deliver those monitoring services. I think there's an amazing, amazing opportunity that we could tap into with country managers, Aboriginal people who live on country, who know their country, that could be engaged in delivering those services. And I would love to see that model perhaps start off with Yawuru people, given the experience and expertise that they have already developed through existing partnerships. But maybe that's food for thought. I'm just going to put that out there for the conference to consider, that there's amazing opportunities there to really elevate the way in which we assess and manage rangelands through the knowledge of traditional owners.
Matt, can we beg for one more question, please?
Oh. Righto, can we make this one really quick?
Hello. Yeah, my name's Russell Chestnut. I'm a Guniandi person from Eastern Fitzroy Valley. I think you guys mentioned that there will be a presentation on fire. I was at a Roebuck yesterday and I heard some good feedback about land management on country with fire. But before we get to that stage, I wanted to hear from your words how important fire is on country and how beneficial it is, because I understand that some people around the nation don't understand the importance of fire. So I just wanted to hear from you guys, just to touch on it before you get there, because I know you guys will have a different way of presenting your opinions.
I've been told very, very quick. So I'm going to ask Gagdeen and others in the room to probably expand on that in the next section. But as Ellen highlighted, it's fundamentally important from a commercial aspect in terms of mitigating fire risks. But more importantly, Yawuru has always applied, as I know Guniandi and other traditional owners have, in managing the country for, revegetation and growth in certain areas for certain flora and fauna and all of those kind of things. So long story short, fundamentally important, but Gug, you happy to talk to that a little bit later? Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nini and Ellen. Obviously did a great job questions. And are you going to be around for the next few days?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be great. So plenty of time to catch up between sessions and maybe over dinner. So thank you very much. Please put your hands together.